She disappeared on November 14th, 2019. A girl with kind eyes, 17 years old, with dreams that were typical and unique at the same time. Studying, friends, plans for adulthood. But behind the doors of her home in Uddevalla, a small town in western Sweden, a silence began that would sound louder than any scream. That night, something went wrong, without warning, without a trace. Only pain that would later spread throughout the country. At first, there was no panic. Young people leave. Come back. This is Sweden. It is safe here. But time passed, and with each passing minute, it became more and more obvious. Wilma had not simply left. She had been taken away, or worse. On the evening of November 14th, Wilma didn't come home. Her mother wrote, "No answer." She called. The phone was switched off. Alarming messages were sent to friends, then to the police. Standard procedure, wait. 24 hours, and then some. But Wilma's mother felt it in her skin. Something terrible had already happened. No one knew that at that moment the girl's body had already been dismembered, and her remains were hidden next to the man who called her beloved. The next day, the police began searching. Interviews, calls, surveillance cameras. Names. One name was heard again and again. Tishko Ahmed, her boyfriend. A young man, a Kurd by origin, a student. Perfect in appearance. But behind the politeness, a deep, dangerous shadow. Tishko was strangely calm from the start. While Wilma's parents were torn between hope and fear, he kept a cold face. He didn't help with the search. He didn't express concern. And when the police found part of Wilma's body, carefully wrapped in foil, in his apartment, it became clear. He didn't just know what had happened, he had done it. Neighbors described him as a withdrawn, almost invisible person who never showed much emotion. At the same time, he had a certain cold charisma. He knew how to manipulate, to seem caring. He inspired trust, especially in Wilma, who considered him mature and reliable. But behind this mask hid a man incapable of empathy. He did not see people as individuals, only objects that had to meet his expectations. But the question was, why? Tishko, as the investigation showed, had demonstrated narcissistic traits since his youth. He sought control. His love for Wilma had nothing to do with feelings. It was ownership, dependence, a toxic need for power. When the girl tried to break up, he could not allow it. For him, her departure meant personal destruction, and in response, he destroyed her. He did not perceive Wilma as an equal, rather as a doll that had to fulfill his desires. He did not tolerate refusals and boundaries set by others. His aggression grew slowly but surely, under the cover of external coldness. Inside him, a determination was maturing to punish her for trying to be free. He decided that if he could not have her, then no one else would. According to the investigation, Wilma was killed the same day she disappeared, quietly, coldly, without witnesses, in an apartment where she felt safe. After the murder, he acted methodically, dismembered the body, hid the parts, saved the head as a trophy, as a reminder of victory. And when he was arrested, he still kept silent. He did not confess. He showed no remorse. He did not even allow Wilma's body to be buried completely. Her parents still do not know where the rest of the remains are. Experts noted that such actions require emotional detachment and a well-thought-out plan. He did not panic, did not make mistakes. On the contrary, he acted with frightening precision. The neighbors did not hear a sound. He calculated everything in advance. After the murder, he continued to live as if nothing had happened, even communicating with people. Such cold-bloodedness indicated not only a crime, but also a pathological indifference to the life and death of others. Sweden was shocked, not just by the brutality of the crime, but by how little protection a girl like Wilma had. Her mother, who spoke painfully to the press, spoke of a feeling of emptiness that could not be filled. of a society where children are taught safety, and then this safety turns out to be an illusion. Wilma's story became a symbol of the failure of a system that could not protect her. Parents of other teenagers began to ask questions. Are we paying enough attention to the signs of violence? Schools, child services, the police, all became the focus of public discontent. A debate began about the control of relationships with signs of abuse. People were no longer willing to remain silent. Silence in this matter was too expensive. Women all over the country went out to rallies. They held signs. How much more? Safety is a right. Sweden, a country that prides itself on equality, feminism, and a support system, is now faced with a question that cannot be brushed aside. Why did a young girl end up alone with a killer? Public debate has touched on women's rights, violence in relationships, and the role of the state in preventing such tragedies. Wilma's story has prompted a review of the laws on stalking and domestic violence. Society has become more attentive to the warning signs in relationships. Everyone has asked themselves, what would I do if I knew that someone close to me was suffering? And most importantly, how to prevent something like this from happening again. The trial was short, the evidence was overwhelming, but the defendant remained silent, causing even more anger. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, but he appealed. And in the end, he got 18 years in prison, 18 years for the brutal murder and concealment of the body of an underage girl. This caused a wave of indignation across the country. People said, lives have no value in court if you are a woman. It was not just a sentence, it was a blow to trust in the system. Many called the sentence an insult to the memory of Wilma. Lawyers argued about the principles of humanism and justice. Where is the line between the rights of the accused and the rights of the victim? A storm erupted on social networks. Petitions, posts, calls for reform. Society demanded a review of the practice of parole in cases of violence, and perhaps Wilma's case will become the starting point for changes in the legal system. Wilma Andersson became a symbol, not just a victim, but a warning. Girls who date guys in whom evil is not immediately apparent, families who think they have everything under control, schools, police, media, all were unprepared. This case became a mirror in which society saw that no social guarantees save if women's safety is an abstraction. Why was Wilma not heard when she complained about Tishko's behavior? Why was her anxiety not a signal? Why was he not under surveillance despite his previous aggressive behavior? Wilma is gone, but her photo remains on the streets, on social media, in her mother's heart. There are questions that should no longer remain unanswered. How many more women must die for fear to become not their norm, but a signal for action? How many more courts will call love an excuse for violence? And how many more people will remain silent when they see someone losing control? This was case number 99. This is a story about us, about what we allow, what we do not resist, and what we call just an accident.